Lately, I've been watching a lot of Star Wars stuff, right? The new Obi-Wan show's come out. I've been watching that. I've been rewatching some of the Clone Wars stuff. I've been rewatching Rebels, Bad Batch, like the prequels, the originals. Like I've been rewatching a lot of Star Wars stuff, and it's got me thinking about just the concept of telling stories and the concept of filmmaking and how well Star Wars has stood the test of time in film, right? How well George Lucas like pioneered his original journey into Star Wars back in the 70s when it comes to making movies, and has ultimately pioneered the entire industry since then from a technological standpoint. Like he's pushed and pushed and pushed, and every Star Wars film was at the bleeding edge of what was possible and what was capable and what they could even do during the times they were made. Yet they were still so powerful, emotional stories that have stood the test of time. Despite the rough production value or the acting or whatever it may be, there's still something about Star Wars that has stood the test of time. And what is that within the storytelling that allows that to stand for so long and be prominent for so long? I've been thinking a lot lately about the type of content and things that I want to create over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and even within the next year. Like there's things that I've been thinking about of where I want to take this channel, where I want to take my personal creation, like stuff that I do just out of sheer passion and enjoyment, and even my work. Like all of these things for me in my life converge into one thing a lot of times, because my work is telling stories through video. Like that's 90% of what I do for a living, whether it's side gigs, whether it's my main job, whether it's YouTube, whether it's passion projects. Like all of these things come back to telling stories. And whether it's shooting B-roll of my dogs, or making these talking head videos, whether it's making even tutorials or like reviews of gear, like to me, those are pieces that allow me to tell stories, which is why I'm interested in them. One of my dream projects is to shoot a documentary, and I think it's one of the most attainable dream projects that I have right now. And I've been thinking a lot lately about what that story would be. Like, what would that documentary be about? And I don't really have the answer. I want it to be something that doesn't matter what camera I shoot it on, what lighting I use. Like I want it to be a story that will stand despite the lack of production or despite the good production. Ultimately, I want it to be a story that will impact those that watch it, whether you understand cameras or whether you're watching it 10, 20 years later. I want it to be something that stands the test of time. Now, obviously, I'm not going to create the next Star Wars. Like that's not my trajectory in life. That's not what I was put on this planet to do. I don't believe that is where my skill set lies, but I understand enough about it to know there's something about these type of stories. Even stuff like Marvel Comics, they've stood the test of time. And why? Like, what is it about these stories that do that? Even the stories that you learn about in school, like through actual history, things that actually happen. Like, why do we choose to talk about the things that we talk about? And what are the stories that have been forgotten? And then why have they been forgotten? I know it's super cliche to say, but watching, the Obi-Wan show, and I've been watching all of like the behind the scenes of making of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and I was watching, the Clone Wars and the Rebels, and these are all like very different mediums of storytelling. Like you have animated, all art-based, more like kid level stuff, and then you have stuff like Obi-Wan that's all live action, in-camera stuff. And then The Mandalorian is very similar. And then just watching the making of The Mandalorian, it was very inspiring to me to hear these directors like that. They came in from all different backgrounds, all different cultures, and they all had a different experience with Star Wars, right? You have Dave Filoni, who was a Star Wars nut from day one and has created some of the best Star Wars content that we've seen when it comes to Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, and episodes of The Mandalorian. And then you have Jon Favreau has his own journey with Star Wars. You got Bryce Howard, you have Deborah Chow, all these people that have been involved in this world, and they all bring something to it that's their own perspective. And I think the fact that the Star Wars universe can handle that, like can handle the exploration of all these different directors and writers, says something about the world that George Lucas created. I know I'm talking about fiction versus nonfiction. Like a documentary is very nonfiction, and Star Wars is obviously extremely fiction. But I think there's things that translate. And by translate, I mean the way in which stories are told. George Lucas is obviously a master storyteller. That's his gift, right? He's a master storyteller and a passionate filmmaker, and one that's willing to take risk when it comes to production. To me, Star Wars is about redemption. It's about fighting through the darkest of times. It's about resiliency. It's about fighting against things that you know are wrong and standing firm in what you believe in. And I think a common trend in stories that we as humans fall in love with revolve around those, right? It revolves around a world in which we see people take a stand for what they believe in, regardless of what's around them, right? To take a stand against the darkness, right? If you use Star Wars example, like the light and the dark, the conflict between the light and the dark. And I think, you know, without bad, there is no good. And I think that is the recipe for stories. Like, you have to show the bad to appreciate the good. It can't be this polished, you know, overly positive, you know, false reality based story. It's got to be something that acknowledges the bad with true transparency and true genuine approach, so that you can really appreciate the good and the redemption side of whatever the story may be. So my journey over the next few years is going to be to become a better storyteller. I want to grow in that area of my life because, you know, I know how to use a camera. I know how to set up lights. I know all these things. I know what lenses to use. But ultimately, I want to be a better storyteller, because none of that stuff matters if you don't have a good story at its core. So I challenge you, if you're a filmmaker out there, come on this journey with me. Let's become better storytellers together. I'm going to be making periodic updates to these videos in this theme of just about becoming a storyteller, because I feel like it's going to be a journey and I'm going to learn things along the way. I'm probably going to screw up stuff. You know, I want to dive into documentaries, and documentaries are all about telling stories of real life people that have gone through something, or real life situations that have gone through something, shining light in the dark areas, and then also highlighting the good that has come out of it. And I think that's what I want to dive into. So for me to be able to do that justice, I want to prepare. I want to become a better storyteller. And I think for your dreams to come true, you can't just sit around and expect them to happen. You know, you can't wait for your dream project to fall in your lap, because if you're not prepared and you don't know how to do it, if it does fall in your lap, you're going to be screwed, because you're not going to know what you're doing. So I want to be prepared for when that opportunity comes. So my journey is to become a better storyteller, and I challenge you to do it with me. I know this is kind of a random video. There's not much going on, but I just wanted to talk about this because something that's been on my mind the last few weeks and months, just as I've been watching more content, watching more shows. And again, Star Wars has been the thing that's really inspired it, because I didn't grow up loving Star Wars. Like, I didn't grow up watching it as a kid. My parents weren't really into it, and I've gotten into it more in my adult years. And I know I'm kind of like late to the party, but it's almost like, man, what have I been missing? Like this amazing universe that was created, this full of amazing storytellers, and I'm just excited about that. So it's got me thinking about my own journey and my own projects and my own creative endeavors, and what that's going to look like for me, and how can I apply those principles to my own dreams and my own aspirations. So for me, that is more of a telling real people stories, right? I don't know that I'll ever be in the narrative space that heavily, but I want to be able to communicate people's stories and communicate them clearly in a way that's impactful and that leaves you with something as you walk away when the screen turns off and it's over. I want that to be a lasting thing. So that's my journey. That's my goal. I'm ready to go for it. I will be posting updates, as I already said, as I kind of learn new things and have new realizations, and maybe try some stuff and shoot some things. So be on the lookout for that. We'll also still keep pumping out, you know, tech videos and camera videos and tutorials and things like that. So make sure you don't miss that as well. Again, thank you guys for checking out this video. I know it's kind of random, kind of weird, but I hope you understood what I was coming from. I hope you got something out of it. Hope maybe you were inspired to prepare and chase your dreams as well. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for me, and I'll catch you in the next one.